Well, good morning, ladies, and thank you so much for taking the time to talk to it today with us. I have here with Chapel Hart,
Hello.
and I'm just super excited to talk with all three of you. With Danica sitting in the center there. There's Danica, and Tree. If you're looking at their screen, if you're looking at your screen, she's to your right, and then to your left would be Devin. So. Uh, just so excited to have you with us. In addition to their first album that they put out of the mud, that came out last year, I believe, right? Last year it came out.
That's correct.
You have a brand new single called Jesus and Alcohol that we'll talk about in a minute here. But it means so much that the three of you would take the time to talk to me today. So thank you for that.
We're so glad to be here.
I want to kind of go back because you have a really interesting story about how this all came together for the three of you. I should tell our future listeners that your family, and that's a very neat thing. All three of you are cousins, and then also on top of that, Danica and Devin are sisters. So it's a family thing.
Right.
Which I guess it's a really good thing, and maybe sometimes there might be a moment of like, oh, okay, here we are again. but I think 99% of the time, or at least 98%, a very good thing for family to be together.
Oh, you're right. It really is. I'm gonna go a little lower than 98, but
less. Is it still in the 90s? Can we keep it in the 90s here?
Yeah. That's
all right. That's all right then.
Right there.
90.1. No. No. It's
still an A.
There you go. So I want to kind of go back to how this all began for you, the three of you. And growing up in Mississippi, it sounds like music gatherings were just amazing, like with the family. Like I've read like just big family, and that music was always at the center of the celebrations.
It really was, especially since like we're three of 108 grandkids, and my grandmother had 17 kids.
Wow.
And so sometimes it would be a celebration, and sometimes it would just be a lot of people around, and like one way or another, we'd wind up singing and playing, and like just singing and making music for hours on end, and then like, ooh, time has flown.
Yeah, we grew up in South Mississippi, so you watch those movies and you hear people talk about like how much they went to church. They went to church every day of the week, and that was us. So like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday back to Sunday was always church events. But in between those, our family would always get together and we'd be like sitting around or talking. And it somehow always led back to music. So I always tell people that was our first start in music was, just growing up with our family and everybody being super musical. And, our aunts and uncles, they sang, or all the cousins sang. So that was kind of our way of like bonding as a family and keeping that, we made a lot of family traditions from that. So, yes.
I think that might be why we all like musicals so much. I just realized, like, we all like movies with a lot of music, but for some people it seems a little dramatic. But now thinking back, that was real life. Like, just everybody just bust out and singing, like randomly.
That's funny you say that because I direct shows locally, musicals and everything, and I was a late bloomer to that. Like maybe about 12 years ago. I didn't grow up in a high school that did musical theater until after I graduated. They started doing it. So now I direct a lot of musicals, and we always joke with my students and whatnot, and we always say kind of like, no matter what happens, people break out into song. You know how you mentioned Tree. People just break out into song, and no matter good or bad, it might be a tragedy, but they're still singing, And it's just some people that don't understand theater can't understand that. Well, why are they singing? Tragedy just happened, but that's just the love of musical theater.
Right. 1,000%.
So, can you throw a favorite musical out there? Any of the three of you, all of you, have a favorite musical that you might want to share?
Here, we'll start at this end. We'll go down.
Okay.
Well, I was reluctant to watch it, but when I finally did, I fell in love with Hamilton. But like, I would have to say Mulan. A lot of people don't look at the Disney, but those are definitely musicals.
Absolutely.
Music, but Mulan has like a special place.
It has a soundtrack that only heaven can hear. Love it. Mulan, will say, well, I'll let Tree use that one. And
Okay, well, I'll just keep Hamilton.
okay, no, we'll share Mulan. And so probably a ton of Disney music. I just love the music. I was that kid. But I don't know, something about Hairspray that I just cannot. We were here in Nashville one time, and
It's 4 in the morning.
it was like 4 in the morning. I never sleep. And so I was watching Hairspray, and I got a message from Tree, and she was like, can you please turn that down? Like, she was like dreaming about Hairspray. And so I was like, sorry. So
well, I'm gonna pretend that she didn't just say Hairspray, because Hairspray is by far, hands down, no question about it, my favorite musical.
right. We kind of
It is. Oh, it's sickening how much I love it. Hairspray is great.
our family, well, like, we kind of grew up. We grew up in the same house, and so really, since I was the oldest, we just watched whatever I said we were gonna watch.
Oh, I see.
But we had this thing. We probably only watched like maybe 5 movies, but we would watch them over and over, and we'd sing the songs every time, and we learned the dances. So it was just
Between Hairspray and Shrek, oh,
and
that's
Yes.
Celeste. Now that one,
that's Debs.
that is so hard. I'm gonna
I-
Burlesque, Hairspray, they're one and the same, but I absolutely love Burlesque. It's because I used to dance.
Okay.
And so like that, I feel like connected me even more than the music, because I was like, maybe I can be a burlesque dancer one day. But it was just, I love burlesque as well.
And as the Lord would have it, she didn't. So
He knew what was best for me.
right.
We could probably have a separate call sometime just about musicals, because I'll tell you, when you talk about the Disney and you talk about Hairspray and you talk about, all these different musicals, boy, yeah, Disney is what I do mostly. Yeah. So, I'm going to start with Tree for a second, because that's you guys tell me if I piece this together correctly. But so there's Tree down in New Orleans, right? And Danica is at a place in her life where she's maybe going to make a career move, a change of lifestyle, change of what she wants to do with life. And Tree calls up and says, "Hey, why don't you come to New Orleans?"
Mm-hmm.
And so when that happened, did you know when you moved down there that you were going to pursue music together, or was it kind of something that happened after you were back together again, after you were reunited as family?
Well, it was definitely not the goal whenever I first moved to New Orleans. Like when I first moved there, I was like working in film, like doing a lot of like assistant editing and like just a lot of different stuff. And but I'd be like working on set or doing other stuff, like just, in my own little world, humming and singing. They're like, you should really sing. And I was like, because, when you grow up in a family full of singers, it's like, right, you have the ones who can sing, and then the ones who can sing. And,
yeah.
I wasn't ever one of the ones who could like just sing. And I was like, well, you know what? If I'm going to do this, let me reach up and grab somebody who be singing. And so I had to give Danica a call, and now it took about a year and a half of convincing for her to even come down.
Okay.
But after she finally did, like, it kind of, the story, we started out on Royal Street with an old raggedy keyboard, and like it just kind of went nonstop from there. That's
such a neat thing. And so Danica, what do you think it was then that time that Tree called you up, and about a year and a half before you went down there, what the soul searching of saying, oh, what's going to happen here?
It's crazy, because I think for a long time, especially growing up in Poplarville, like, we didn't know anybody who was a successful singer, like, or who had singing as a career. So it was always kind of like when you have spare time, you can sing, or when you're doing church, you can sing. And so that's kind of where I always found, where I found myself singing. And then I fell into, like, I discovered the world of karaoke. And so that was like my second home. But like at the time, I was working in the intensive outpatient program and at the hospital. And I didn't see it at the time, but ended up losing my job, and I was like, what do you do in Poplarville? Kind of like one of the best jobs you can have is like working at the hospital. If you're at the hospital, you're doing big things there.
Right.
And so
Right.
I kind of felt like I was already at the top, and it's like, where do you go from here? Like, what do I do? And I was like, well, the one thing is that if I'm ever gonna at least even attempt to be a singer, let me just kind of reach out and accept Tree's invitation. And so I called her, asked her if her invite still stood. And, I showed up and we made a list of like 15 songs, and we just went out and sang them. And like, crazy enough, people started like gathering around. And kind of once we really got that formula down, it was like the streets would be filled. Like they'd have to get like the police to come and like move traffic. And so we didn't see it then at the time what busking on the streets was shaping us for. So
Right.
I don't know if I answered the question or not.
No, you did. You certainly did. You certainly did.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes. And so then Devin, what were you doing you were back in Mississippi still, and all of a sudden you get a phone call now. This is this family phone calls things. You never know what was on the other side of the phone, Devin, right?
And it's so funny because I was working as a dental assistant, and then I lost my job.
Oh,
So
the timing.
I
Wow.
was at the same place as Danica, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm gonna do with my life. I don't want to be in school. I don't want to work fast food anymore. I don't know what I want to do. And so, growing up, Danica would kind of force me and my brother to sing with her, like when our dad would go off to preach and stuff. And so, but other than that, like I would not sing like in church or in front of people or none of that. So when Danica was like, come to New Orleans and just kind of fill in this spot for me, just, until you can get back on your feet, I was scared to death. Like, I was like, girl, I can't sing in front of these people. She was like, just act like you don't know them. And I was like, that was what made me even go. I was like, you know what? I don't know any of these people. So if I mess up, I'll never see them again. And that will be A-okay with me. And so I went and did a couple shows. My first couple shows were terrible.
Horrible. The worst.
And hey, we get it.
Very, very worst.
And so I somehow ended up just, sticking with it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. And so I just decided to jump all in, and they've been stuck with me ever since.
Stuck is a really good word.
Yes, family is a forever thing. So it's so neat how it all came together for all three of you, and the timing of it, like the job changing your life and the job changing your life, and then Tree, you being down there and bringing family to you, kind of pulling them together to do this. This is, and I'm sure there's thousands and thousands of people out there who are very grateful that you guys all came together as a musical family. So.
I thought you were about to say people are grateful for their unemployment that led them to this.
It was funny. We were in one interview, and I was talking about losing my job, and Deb was talking about losing her job. I was like, well, we were a family of job losers here. But it worked out for us.
Well, I was going to ask the question, but I thought I wasn't going to ask this question, but I'll ask just to be silly. So you guys weren't with voodoo dolls, when it came time to call Devin up and saying, let's call that dental assistant's office and see if we could.
You know what? Now that you say that, I wouldn't doubt it. I don't know with these two.
Well, if Dad's work ethic, we didn't need a voodoo doll.
Oh boy.
Well, I was just kidding.
That's a lovingly kidding.
Right. All right. I can say that.
You can.
Okay.
She'll tell you about that later on. She'll tell you about that. No, but truly, all joking aside, it's just so neat that you guys can have this rapport as a family, because family, we know the family can, every once in a while.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's neat, and it's and really, who better to have a musical career with than people that you've grown up with, there's the level of trust amidst any other, little tiny disagreements here and there. But we're just family, we get that. But just to be able to, that trust that you have each other's backs to do this together, the three of you.
That's right.
So.
You are 100% right.
Could you possibly tell us how did the name Chapel Hart come about?
so, like we said earlier, we grew up in Poplarville, Mississippi, but where all of our family lived was in a small community called Hart's Chapel. That
Okay.
was the name of our church that we grew up in. Like I said, all of our family lived there. And so we wanted a name that kind of represented the three of us, something that meant something to all of us. And going into it, we were trying to think of a name. What can we do? What can we do? Something creative, fun, but still
Mm-hmm.
represents us. And we were coming up with nothing. And then our marvelous genius manager says, well, what about Chapel Hart? And initially we just kind of laughed because we were like, what? But
Yeah.
then after we thought about it, we were like, you know what? This is the greatest idea you've had all year. Like, this this is it, because it, when you really sit and think about it, it is Chapel Hart. It
Is who
really,
we
it,
are.
it is who we are. Hart's Chapel helped mold us into the women that we are today. And so we felt like, what better name than Chapel Hart to really represent us.
And good thing we had decided to agree, because one of our managers came up with it, and then the other one just started calling us Chapel Heart, and I was like, well, good thing we accept, because I don't think he was changing it.
You're like, I kind of want to talk to you about that Chapel Heart thing. We haven't decided yet, but you're thinking of that moment, like,
Right.
oh, okay, I guess we're
No,
Chapel Heart now. Okay.
decisions made.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's
And I'm
right.
sure that your community is so proud, and it's how neat it is for you to carry that name uh, through the world with your music, and I know they have to be so proud of all that you've accomplished, the three of you together. So cool. Um, we're
Definitely hope so.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I have no doubt. I have no doubt. I have no doubt. Um, are are there any funny stories as you were thinking of a name before Chapel Heart, before your manager mentioned that? Any names that you were thinking of and like, no, that won't work because of this, or any funny names that maybe got tumbled around before Chapel Heart?
I think, well, like, I remember like a couple of the suggestions, maybe like Heartland Express or Heart of Dixie or something, like lots of different plays on Heart. But actually, like, as soon as he said Chapel Heart, even though we all started laughing, it's kind of like all the other names kind of just disappeared. Like, I don't want to love it, but I love it.
Right.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I literally had no ideas for nothing. Like, I was blank, honey. I was just like, I am not creative. I cannot think of anything. So I'm like, I'm gonna let y'all.
She was like, just let me
Y'all
know who
come
we're
up
gonna
with
be.
a couple options, and I'll vote on one.
There
So
you go.
it was
There you
funny
go.
for a while. A lot of people would just refer to us as them girls.
Ah,
I'm like,
Girls.
the girls. It's the girls.
Yeah, like a lot of people, well, a lot of people not didn't know us, but maybe just kind of maybe knew of us just by way of people being like, there's these girls that sing and you gotta go see them, and then there's three girls, and so a lot of times, like, or we would be singing somewhere and they'd be like, y'all are those girls, like, and so like we were them girls for a long time. So
you were like, we have
Chapel
to get a
Hart's
name
kinda
together
staying
now.
with
We
us.
have to get a name.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
They can't call us those girls forever. We need a name. Yes.
Surprisingly, some people still say them girls, and we roll with it. That's the people we know. Those are the people from the very beginning.
Right.
Right. Um, I want to talk a little bit about your current single, which is just amazing. Um, Jesus and Alcohol. And is it the lead off single to a future project, or is it kind of a song in between projects? How do you view it?
Well, I think Jesus and Alcohol is definitely like a lead off to future project, because it was kind of like an introduction to the music scene on a bigger scale. And like, kind of like, now that we have the world's attention, we have to come and let them know who we really are and say something, make that follow-up statement. And because
Sure.
especially like now everyone's like single, but I feel like there's nothing like a body of work that will like really like truly introduce you to an artist, so you can see like maybe the different facets of their music. And like an album, like one song may speak to this person, but 5 tracks down the line, maybe the song that speaks to another person.
Yeah, I agree, because I mean, I think that sometimes the music industry has gotten away from the full length or even the EP. And it's like, let's put a single here and there. That's why I kind of wanted to get your take on that and see. And I agree with you that really that full body of work is kind of, it'll be neat to add this to that then and say, okay, you like this, and here's a couple of other different styles that we've had, you know, that we've been working on.
Right.
So that's the, like the leaders, it's the teaser to the movie of music.
I think also, like, I think we've been through so much these last couple of years, and there's so much that we want to say. And we had our first album, Out the Mud, which is still doing really good. But even in making that album, there was a lot of stuff, you know, we didn't know. We didn't know we could say no to this, or we didn't know we could say no to that. And so we had so much learning and growing room. And, now we've grown up a lot, especially as artists and especially together. And I think that, and there's so many reasons and causes and, things that we see now that we didn't know we could stand up and say before, you know what I mean? And so there's so much of that we just want to put into an album and say, look, this is us. This is us in becoming who we are as Chapel Hart.
That's great, because it was kind of like, it was like the test run in a sense of putting music out there, seeing how people respond to it, seeing how to work with labels, how to work with all the things that come with promoting your music, and learning and kind of getting your feet grounded in that. And now you, like you said, you have a little more of a better idea and a little more control over how you have an opinion, a specific opinion as to that on the job experience. Well, we don't want to do that with this album, or we do want to do this again, or that kind of thing.
Right.
So, so the video has spent 3 weeks on the CMT, in the CMT 12 pack. How cool is that? I mean, it's got to be so cool. The 3 weeks at number 2, not just that it was in the top, in that top
Right.
in the 12 pack, but number 2. And by the way, I did vote for it last night when I was preparing for the interview. Yes, so one more vote. I read some of your social media posts about the journey with that single on CMT, and 3 weeks in a row at 2, and now we're at a point where we gotta just keep pushing hard to get it back to that place, and then that the sacred number 1 spot.
Yes.
That's the plan.
It's just so crazy that I just remember we had a studio session. We were working on a song in Muscle Shoals, and we were at the hotel, and first of all, like, I never sleep, so I was in the bed early, and I was super excited. I was like, I'm gonna be good well rested for studio in the morning. And next thing you know, I hear like, wow, and I was like, what are these crazy people doing outside? I'm like, what is going on? And so next thing you know, there's a bang on the door, and I'm like, what is that? And so our bass player, Mike Bass Bailey, was with us, and he comes to the door, and he was like, we're number 2. That was our first jump from number 9 to number 2.
Wow.
And I mean, it was just incredible. We had so many people reaching out, and we had so many ZZ Top fans who I've heard are like super straight up and straightforward, which is why I think they work so well with our regular fans, because our fans are very truthful. And so like there was kind of like a merging, and there were so many ZZ Top fans who were like, Billy Gibbons, I don't know what you were thinking, but this is magic. Like, and they had so many great compliments, and like what an amazing, like, what an honor to just be even in the same sentence as Billy Gibbons and ZZ Top, you know what I mean?
Right.
But that the fact that they embraced us and they kind of gave us a stamp, like, you ladies are amazing, was just like, yes. The ultimate yes.
Well, yeah, it had to be amazing. I mean, just to think about that. And, there's some classic videos you could probably think into your own upbringing, the different videos that are out there, that when there's cameos of somebody else, you don't forget those videos, so he by him being a part of that, it's like it puts your video on a whole nother level of, we'll always remember that video where Billy Gibbons was the preacher. Remember that? And
right.
Right. So that's like music video history now, I would say, that 20 years from now, remember that Billy Gibbons video with, not the Billy Gibbons video. Remember the Chapel Hart video with Billy Gibbons, and remember how he, because to see him interacting differently than maybe he interacted in his band all those years, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
how did that come about? How did it come about that you ended up working with Billy Gibbons?
So we actually shared a booking agent at a point in time, and so the our booking agent Jeff Hill, he says, well, I'm gonna send some of y'all's music to Billy Gibbons and just, let him get a feel for you guys. And so first he sent him the music, and he responded and he was like, wow, like this is amazing, who are these girls? And then he sent a picture of us and he was like, what in the world
It
is
was
this?
like, this is not real.
This is not real. What
You're
is
kidding.
this? Like, these girls are freaking phenomenal. And so he was just like, if there's ever anything that I can do for them, just let me know. And so as time went on, we started getting the works for the video together. And so we were like, we really want a really super cool cameo in this video. And somebody had the great idea. They were like, what about Billy Gibbons? And so we had Jeff to reach out to him, and he was like, when and where, I'm there, pretty much. Like,
Wow.
and he came down for the video, and initially he was only supposed to do like one scene, but right as they were like packing all of his stuff up, he says, he's like, you know what? Before I go, I kind of have a couple more ideas that I'd like to do for the video. And so he ended up staying for the entire shoot.
Wow.
Yeah, he was so good and so down to earth. And I mean, it was just for a moment there, it was like cameo heaven. We had T. Graham Brown, we had Deborah Allen, we had
Kendall,
JD Shelburne.
Right, JD Shelburne, yeah.
We had Kendall Inskeep. She was on The Voice, I think season, I'm not sure what season, but I knew she was on The Voice.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was just like,
it was a big party.
I was like, how?
Yeah. I was just so impressed when I saw that video, and to think that I know it takes some magic to bring people together, because they all have busy schedules, and they all have, how busy it is for you, the three of you, and to pull all of them together to do a shoot. What an honor that they would all come together to help to take your band to the next level, which is skyrocketing.
Yeah, and it really meant the world to us, because like despite all of the negative things that people have said about the quarantine, I honestly feel like it happened just for us, because like you said, to have all those amazing people,
yes,
it's not often that T. Graham and Deborah Allen, let alone Billy Gibbons, have a completely clean slate of free schedules. You know what, girls? What do y'all need? We're gonna come. We're gonna help you out. We're like, oh my gosh, you're gonna help us.
It's so funny though, because we met Deborah Allen, and literally, first of all, it's hard to meet somebody who's more dramatic than me. Like, it never happened. And so we met her.
They're shaking their heads over here. The both of them are shaking their heads.
Yeah.
very dramatic.
And she was like, oh my God, y'all are so beautiful. I was like, who is this? Oh my God. We had clicked instantly. So pretty much, once Chapel Hart gets off the ground and we retire, Deborah Allen and I'm sure, at the very minimum, we got to have a podcast. And every one of our guests, no one's going to be able to hear, because we're both going to be really loud and talking. Like, it's going to be a mess.
I was going to say, your guest is going to sit silently.
Yes, it's going to be a happy mess, but it's going to be amazing, though.
Oh, that's so wonderful. That's so fun. Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, Shree, it is kind of a blessing, like divine intervention, to have this extra time, but where people's, even as I think about this too, in the world of Zoom, we might have done an audio interview, but now we're interacting with people around the world through video more than we ever have,
Yes.
and so, or maybe it would be a written article or something, but people, you watch some of the talk shows and you see someone cooking and you see the kids running around, well, they're interviewing, Hugh Jackman or something, so it's like, we're just all kind of taking everything down a notch. We're at home doing things, and we have a little more time in our schedule and even like to let some of our everyday personality show, rather than okay, well, I can only see this person at 3:00 from 3:00 to 3:05, and I could never dream about doing a video, but I could do it now. I got time,
Yes. And
so
I think there's magic in that. And
absolutely.
I think that I almost could maybe even say it's an opportunity to kind of step back and really kind of get a chance to like relearn each other and kind of get a chance to get a redo at, you know, kind of falling in love as people, you know what I mean? And, you know, there's so many things that I think that we've been made aware of, you know, like socially and politically.
Yeah.
But I think it's an opportunity now, like that you can get a chance to like be like, you know what, I'm gonna zoom my friend from high school, or we'll zoom and meet. And so then it's a little more relaxed. It's a little more, you know, it brings it down a tone, and then, you know, you really get a chance to open up. And I think that I think it's a good start for change. And, you know, and I think, yeah, you think you'll hear a lot of that in our music, and especially if you come to our show. We often tell people, like, we don't care who you're voting for, or where you're from, where you're going. Like, it's about love. And when you're in our room, in our environment, like, we just want to love you so much that you walk away and say, these are my best friends in the whole world, that you don't want to walk away. And I think that everybody deserves that. But I'm with you 100%. I think there's definitely something. If you look, you can see the blessing in all of this crazy madness that's going on.
Agreed. And like you said, calling a high school friend and talking on Zoom or something. I have schedules now where I talk to certain people on certain nights of the week that I haven't talked to for years. And it's like, okay, every Thursday at 10 o'clock or every Saturday. And I just can't believe it. It's been such a blessing to reconnect with people during this time. So I think in a sense, God has kind of given us, like you said, a chance to reboot. And I think that it could be intentional. We're all so busy in life. And he said, wait, you know,
slow it down, honey.
Slow it down. I really believe that, because I'm in, you know, yes, would I like to get back to being as busy as I was? Of course I would, but it's been nice to breathe a little bit and spend some time with family and talk to people. So for sure, this has been, I think, maybe a little bit of intentional from up above.
Right.
So, do the three of you ever work together to write all of your songs, or is it with outside songwriters? How is it the three of you write songs together and then some outside songwriters, or how does that come together?
For the most part, we write all of our stuff together, and then here recently we've been working on writing with some outside people. So we're pretty open. Like, we don't mind taking outside songs. We don't mind writing with other people, but they love writing with me the most.
Interesting. But also kind of just piggybacking right off of what Dev said, I think initially we do write pretty much most of our stuff, but our objective was kind of during the pandemic, what we would do is we would take an opportunity and get a chance to maybe try and write with different people and write with more people. And well, honey, we hadn't sat still, I think, since maybe June or something like that. Maybe let's see, March, April, May.
Maybe like May.
Like May. We started working on like this our live stream show. We were doing like this big production live stream show. And kind of like after that, everything just kept moving and moving and moving. And then we were doing the video, and then, you know, we were doing promoting, and then we were out playing shows. And then, you know, it has just been, so we hadn't really had the opportunity to write with a lot of people, but it's still our intention, and we're still back and forth in Nashville all the time. And but yeah, like I think
speaking of which, we're gonna be doing some like writing with another artist tomorrow. And like, we don't really have, it's very rare that we even have that kind of time, because like we usually spend most of our time like missing other artists that we plan to write with, just because we move around so much.
Right.
And you know, I think that as a matter of fact, we were supposed to leave in the morning, so I think we ended up pushing our schedule back to where we could write, and then we would leave after we write.
Okay.
So you know, we're definitely trying a lot of different things, but I think writing together is just super creative too. I think there's still something super magical about that, because, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's super cool to write with other people because you have all of those different perspectives. But I think it does mean a lot. Like, just when we write together and we say, this song is exactly what the three of us think, the three of us like. And so I think you're getting the most kind of pure and authentic version of Chapel Hart, and, you know.
Well, and you've in some ways, although, you know, the three of you are all different people, of course, you know, but you've lived parallel lives for some of your life, you know, growing up, you grew up together. So some of the experiences that you have, you can't put five people together that came from different parts of the world and have that same genuine bond. I mean, you could do it, everything you can, but there's nothing more genuine than family writing together.
And I think that's where a lot of the magic happens because, like you said, we have so many shared experiences. We grew up together, but you have the shared experience from the three different perspectives. So you kind of, it's like the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
You know, like we all might have a memory of, you know, somebody falling down, but somebody might have pushed him, but somebody might have been the other person that got their knee scraped. And but it's still that, like, that same experience.
Sure.
But, you know, because as life happens, you know, we all branch out, but we all came together. And it's like, I think the beauty's in the branching because it all came from the same tree. And then bringing it back together, it's like, you know, what a wonderful
You tried it.
I love that. I love that. I love that because it's just, you know, you might all have a different perspective of what happened in a family event. And then you might also just remember different details and you kind of weave it all together. You were all there and you kind of weave it all together. How cool is that? That's just amazing.
Right.
I have to take a moment here to tell the future viewers of this interview that they will be absolutely blown away by these killer harmonies. Killer harmonies. So with Seven Bridges Road, one of my favorite songs of all the social media posts that I saw you do these harmonies on, and it just gives me a chill. My hair stood up on my arms. Just, you know, I was going to point here, but there's not a lot of hair left up here, so I was pointing my arms. Okay, you know,
you rely on the arm hair.
That's right. That's right.
But we were out in Muscle Shoals and we were going to different places. We were having meet and greets, and everywhere everybody kept saying, like, we want to hear something. Please just sing something. Please just sing. So we were like pulling down every acapella song we've ever known or done in life. And then all of a sudden it hit us like a ton of bricks. We were like, Seven Bridges Road. And I was like, we forgot about it. And so pretty much now, if you see us or stop us and ask us to sing an acapella song, it's probably gonna be Seven Bridges Road.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And when we talk about harmonies, we got to talk about this. This just happened this week, I understand. Maren Morris. I mean, holy cow! You know, tell us about that. You this for To Hell and Back. You made an acapella video, and tell us the rest of the story.
So we recorded that video a couple weeks ago when we were in Muscle Shoals, and we posted it to our TikTok and our Instagram. And I run our Twitter account, so I was slacking and I forgot to put it on the Twitter account. But our friend Reese Palmer, she made a tweet and she mentioned Maren and she mentioned Leanne Rhymes, and I was like, you know what? And it just reminded me that I never posted the video. So I went and I posted the video. I tagged Maren and I was like, you know, maybe she'll see it, maybe not, but
you know,
but it was a couple hours and I was in the bathroom and I was looking on Twitter and I saw that she responded and retweeted, and I just freaked. I screamed. I called Derek. I was like, Maren Morris just retweeted our tweet. And then shortly after that, like maybe 30 minutes after that, we got a response from Leanne Rhymes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Crazy.
She responded. And then what was that? Yesterday, maybe Tuesday? Tuesday. We got a follow from Mickey Guyton. So like,
it says a lot. Yeah,
has been crazy,
but like
amazing.
I mean, Maren Morris is just like as fierce as the day is long, and she doesn't have to answer to anyone, I don't think. But I mean, like she just had like, you know, she's just that person though. You know what I mean? And like just that nod from her, and I think it was maybe a little more than a nod. It was like a
it sure was.
Like, it was amazing.
Yes, y'all did that.
Y'all did that. I was like,
yeah.
Yes.
That is just so neat.
It's amazing, you know. It's just, but also just to have someone who's you know, number one right now pretty much in country music, to say like, you girls are amazing, says so much, and it means a lot to us because we work so hard. We're hard workers. That's the one thing I tell people. Sometimes we're like, if we ask for donations or something, I tell people, I promise you, there isn't a better cause. There isn't anybody who's working as hard as us. And so sometimes just those little flag markers that just say you're doing a good job, you're on the right path. And you know, when Mary Morris retweets you, you're doing
Yeah, I mean
right.
it's crazy. It's just it's so, and as of last night, I think there are like 25,000 people who have viewed those moments that you put together. So I think that's what I saw last night, like 25,000 people and growing. Almost
Right.
26,000, and like just to think like just the things that we can do today in social media to interact with other colleagues in the business. And
Yes.
they're not hidden necessarily by a publicist, an assistant, a label. You could reach out to someone like that just as a kind of, hey, by the way, we love your music, and who knows, you're doing a tour and an album together. You never know what could happen through
Right.
just reaching out like you
Right.
did.
Social media is incredible.
Right.
It
It
is.
was a game changer. You know what I mean? And I think that there's not a better time now to be a dreamer and to be a dream chaser than right now,
Absolutely.
because everything is right at your fingertips. And it literally takes a lot of hard work, and it takes a ton of sacrifice, but you can be whatever you want to be right now in this era, because it's all right at your fingertips.
Yes.
Literally.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing how that can be, because back in the day you couldn't reach these people. You couldn't. There was no hope of sharing your respect for another musician, even if you were in the business. It was, there had to be 20 phone calls and then a lot of prayers.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
I feel like social media has definitely kind of removed the kind of like bypasses the gatekeeper, and like you say, you
Yes.
can just reach out directly to the person, and and if
Worst
you
case, they don't say anything at all.
in best case,
Like
Mary
literally.
retweet your video.
Right.
If you reach out to 99 people and one of them responds, it's a victory, right? It's a
Yes.
victory.
Oh yeah.
So it just empowers you to see the great things that the three of you have accomplished together with some of your other colleagues in the business, just by conversation or by someone knowing someone, or whatever the case may be, to pull people together for the video, to interact with Marin through social media. You never know what's ahead. I mean, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning for the three of you. I'm
Yeah.
so
Oh
excited.
my gosh.
And that's kind of the crazy part. Whenever we like just sit and look back, like for a while. Oh, I thought I froze. For a while, it's like, okay, this last year has been crazy. But then you look back and it's like, oh my God, this last month has been wild. And even
Yeah,
now, this past week is ridiculous.
It
And like,
right.
I can only
is.
imagine what's gonna happen next month.
It's so crazy. We were already friends with I'm not sure if you're familiar with Lexi. I forget her last name, but she's a serial Venmo tipper on TikTok.
Okay.
So we were like already friends with her, and we just didn't put two and two together. We didn't know it was her. We're not avid TikTokers, as TikToky as we should be. But it's so crazy. Like, we got here to Nashville, and so we went over to the listening room, and we wanted to try out some new places that we hadn't been to yet. And her husband was playing in the rounds, and I think like we just kind of bumped into each other, and it was just like, it was so crazy. So it was like, she's got like I think like maybe 1.4 million
Yeah.
followers on TikTok. But it's just crazy though that like both of those events happen at once. She was like, we've got to work together. We got to do stuff together. She's also a videographer as well. And so, it says a lot when people want to reach out and help you no matter what. And even in the same sense as Billy Gibbons, like, he was just like, whatever we can do to help these girls. He was like, whatever I can do to help these girls, please let me know. I want to help them. I want to push them to as far as I can, as far as what I can do. And even still, when he got to Nashville, he still came. We had a show. Our last day here, we had a show, and he came to our show and sat through our entire set. And I was
Wow.
like, it just doesn't get any better than that.
No,
You know
it
what I mean?
doesn't. That's so inspiring. It's so inspiring, and so neat how these experiences are happening, and the experiences just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and
Right.
who knows what tomorrow brings, because the sky's the limit for you guys.
Right.
Ah.
So neat, so neat. Um, I mean, I could talk to you all day, but I want to respect your time, and at some point we got to have another conversation about musicals. We got to do that. I mean,
Yes.
and that would be so fun. That's what I do for half of my living, is I direct local musicals. Disney, like you said, I've done Beauty and the Beast probably about 4 or 5 times, and Little Mermaid and Mulan, and the list goes on. So with the local community kids, kids from 8.
Mushu, she's
Oh, really? I'm
I
looking
know
at
all
Mushu,
the
huh?
lines.
Wow. Okay. Well, say
Right.
maybe we could do like a 3-person 10-minute musical online on Zoom, and we could be the rage. We could be the rage. So
No
we're
one
gonna
would
talk
be
sometime
doing
after this, I'm sure. We just speak about musicals. I mean, because there's maybe we got some kind of a side project going right now we don't know about.
All right.
But I just wanted to ask you one more thing. I just how close do you think you might be to like another album like down the road? There's no rush because the music you have is certainly carrying you, and even the last album. But how close do you think you are to another release?
I think that we would kind of not be doing album number 2 justice if we put a timeline on it, because right now we have so much, like we've been working on so many like awesome things, but it's kind of like we're at the point to where we have to let the music guide us, kind of let the best song, like whenever we were talking with the guys from Louisiana's LaRue, he said everything you do is in service to the song. And so it's not necessarily let's just put a bunch of songs together so we can have an album. It has to be right, and it has to be, like you said, it has to be the right time, the right song, the right occasion, and let it happen organically.
Right. Yeah.
I
But
think
I think I mean that's 100% true. And also we do have a lot of music that we're kind of sitting on, but
uh-huh.
also I think maybe a lot, like I said earlier, just trying to figure out, does this convey what we want to say? Does it, like,
Right.
putting together the full body of what we want to say, and how we what we want people to feel when they listen to the album. What is that? And so and I think Tree's right. We don't want to rush that process. We don't just want to put 12 songs on a CD and say, look, go listen to it. These are our favorite songs. We want it to be an experience when you put it on, and we want, while like you remember like back in the day, people would like put on an album or a record, and you like, it was like a Saturday, and you'd open up the windows and you clean the
Yeah.
house,
Yeah.
and you just put on you put on an album that maybe you went and bought and just let it play. Like that's what we want for people when they put it on, or just go for a drive, go for a 2-hour drive and just put it on and be like, I needed that.
Well, putting it all in perspective here, what you both have said about that specific topic is like, it's like you don't want to rush it, and don't let anyone rush you. As you're going through, it's like when it's the right time for the music. You've got lots of things you're doing. You're out in front of your fans and new fans every day, and it has to be right for you, right? It has to be right. There's
Right.
no rush, because otherwise,
Right.
sometimes when we rush the songwriting process, then it's not what we want it to be. It has to be right. So that's
Right.
great what you've both said.
Yeah, I think that people listen to music as a form of healing. You know what I mean? And it's like, you don't want to just rush and put the medicine together. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You might miss
Yeah.
some of the equation. Like, so take your time, get those measurements right, get these people the right prescription, because otherwise,
You might kill a few folks.
right? We're like, what is this?
Right.
So,
Well, I want to thank the three of you so much for your time. And again, for the three of you to all come together when you could be in 3 different directions today doing, the things that our lives require us to do to keep on top of everything, that
right.
as a unified front, you guys take the time together as family and as band to get the word out about your music, I think is really telling us about how special it is. Really.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for such a great interview too. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And please know how excited we are for our musical
Musical
interview as well.